Hello and welcome to Salud SA, San Antonio's premier wellness television show. I'm your host, Anastasia. Each month, I'll seek out San Antonio's best-kept health and wellness secrets and feature homegrown alternative healing pioneers from our community. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Welcome, Christy and Becca. I'm so excited to have y'all back again. I can't believe it's been pretty much almost a year since y'all were here. So what's been going on this year? Just give me some highlights. Anything? Have you done anything different? How's your business evolving? How are Two Hoes evolving?
Yeah, we definitely have, been busy with gardens, of course. But we've been doing a lot of educational opportunities around town with SAISD and UT Health Science Center. So we're really excited about expanding into that realm there. So.
Awesome. A lot more education, I feel like we've been doing. And working with kids.
Yeah.
And a lot of like mental health type of things.
Nice. And so your classes, have they been strictly on gardening, like just or certain techniques, or what were your classes about?
Well, we wanted to focus a lot on like coming off of the summer, having the staff do more wellness and just like mental health, kind of working in the garden to improve mental health, basically.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun. And it's really fun to get everybody kind of out of their element of the office or the classroom and to start out, maybe just generating some ideas for how they can use it working with, these very delicate populations that they work with and going through the stresses of work as well.
Wow, that's great. And so y'all were actually taking them into the field then. I mean, you were really like, this was a hands-on class. It wasn't like, here's my classroom and we're just going to teach you all the things.
Yeah, for UT Health Science, we actually went out into our community garden, Tecolote, or the Eagle's Nest at Tecolote, and we had them, we talked a little bit about, inner garden stuff and also working with what you have in the land, because Tecolote doesn't like to use anything that is brought in, really. So everything that is from their land or close by, they're going to use that for their garden projects. And so doing that, we had them like do a couple of like native planting and
And so overall, were they impressed? Did they feel? I bet they felt so much more grounded afterwards.
They were super excited. I think all of us enjoy being outside in general, any excuse to be outside. But then I think the connections around the garden and especially with that group, it is all about mental health. So it was very cool for them to recognize just the importance of it. There's so much to it. It's more than gardening. There's so much that happens around nature.
Yes, definitely. It's nature is the best medicine for everything. Well,
just getting your hands in the dirt in general. It's grounding. It's earthing.
Yes. So I was going to ask this last, but since we're talking about it now, so what have y'all been doing? I mean, obviously you're teaching people how to make that connection and to be more grounded and to cultivate their inner gardens. So what do you do for your inner gardens? What have you been doing for yourself lately? And it doesn't have to be in the garden either. Just right.
Gardening is definitely my therapy for sure. But I go out to the water. I go and just check in with nature and sit with nature. That's been therapeutic for me this summer. I feel like this last season.
Good.
Even when we're going to go to the water, like.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's been a lot of, I've been trying to do more chanting, and so like a lot of mantras and working a lot with Ayurvedic systems and prayer like that. So that's been really fun. That's really grounding for me. It's something that I have to do in the morning, and if I don't do it, then my day doesn't go as well. But that's all a learning process. And gardening too is, I can prep myself for working. In the garden is not a big deal. Sometimes it's a little bit more nerve-wracking to talk in front of people or to talk with people and really make those connections. So I have to have something that kind of like just starts me out a clean slate.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that sounds amazing. So your sound practices, do you say the mantras out loud, or are you just repeating them mentally?
I do them out loud, but I might do them more of in a whisper. So I don't, since I go outside and it's like super quiet, I don't want to like scare the birds or anything. So I'll just do them in a whisper, but I do like the 108, mantras that I do.
Oh, wow.
So
that's, I dabbled in, or I do occasionally do sound practices. And there was at one point I was using this one it's focused on the heart. And my cat, I used to do it in the house, and the cat would like come and she would start basically like meowing, next to me. I don't really know what she thought, but it was really interesting because, I luckily nobody was there but her, so I could do it as loud as I wanted. She may have gotten a little.
Animals are so responsive. I mean, cats especially are very responsive to those things. Like, they just feel those waves coming off you.
Totally. Yeah. And she nowadays she likes to lay like right here.
Oh, yeah.
She's like listening. She's like, what's in there? She's like, something's in there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, I'm glad that you're both taking care of yourselves. And I know and every day that you're out in the garden, you're also just getting that nature's therapy. And breathing that fresh air. Some of us, don't even get outside sometimes. So, yeah, it's
I think a lot of people might think that, working in the garden automatically gives you that grounding effect. But I think for us, it's a practice. And I think sometimes it is good to be alone doing those things. But I think that what we find, not only working together and side by side is that, we can talk about all the dumb things that come to mind, and we can just kind of like air out all those things that maybe are bothering us or maybe, are really exciting for us. And it just helps to, I think, just like, create that process of expressing yourself, not only to a friend, but also like when we work with people too. It's nice to have those conversations and to have like maybe an objective point of view. And so that really is a lot of the inner garden work that we kind of see happening as well. It's not just about like putting your hands in the dirt, although that's helpful.
Yeah.
But it is a lot of conversing and just like getting to know people and making connections. And so I think
that's
my
really
favorite
nice.
part.
Yeah.
I bet.
Sorry.
And then you also, I'm assuming that a lot of the people that you work with aren't just there by themselves. They've got their family or their partner or somebody else and then to see them develop those relationships amongst each other to who does what. And, that's
it's like
really
alchemy in the
too.
kitchen, we were just having this conversation this last week. Like you have to work together and partner together and problem solve together and game plan of what the garden's going to look like. And, I think that's pretty special about it.
Yeah, definitely. I bet it could be a real bonding experience for families and partners. And
yeah, we love to see kids working out in the garden too. If people have kids, and both of us being educators, we really love seeing that spark. For kids wanting to take ownership of their own space and to say like, hey, I grew that, or hey, that flower, like I can pick it and give it to mom, but I'm going to leave it for the bees.
Yeah.
So, I mean, making those connections is really exciting for us to see that. But then it also like brings the parents in to say, oh man, I didn't know that. Like, that's cool that you know that, or that's cool that, those seeds that you punched in the ground, like they actually came up.
Yes.
And they will every time.
Yes. Well, that's amazing. I'm glad that your business is evolving and that you're doing, you're educating people on things that you're passionate about, and like that's what life's all about, right? So fantastic.
It's super fun.
So let's talk a little bit about San Antonio gardening. We're about to hit, or we just hit fall, I guess, even though it's still quite hot outside. What can people do around this time to start preparing maybe for winter garden or harvest, or what's going on in the yards these days, in the gardens?
Winter and fall gardening is definitely our favorite time and season to garden. You can pretty much garden everything. It's a great time for your brassicas, which is basically like your broccolis and cauliflowers and cabbages and go ahead, Becca.
So I think, so if you have a garden that's already established, we really have been focusing on, one, it was such a hot summer. So during the summer, I don't know if anybody knew this, but the city was giving away free mulch.
Really?
And that meant a lot to us because not only could we give people mulch and put it in their gardens, but it's a really great way to keep moisture inside of the, or underground.
Helps to keep the soils cool. I noticed whenever I mulched around my yard, I literally didn't have to water as much.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So adding mulch and just really amending your soils, and of course we always try to use Compost Queen's product, and that one is perfect too for here because if you ever come across it, it's pretty mulchy, but it also has a lot of nutrients already in it. So just adding that combination of mulch and nutrients or humic acid, I guess, if you want to get technical, adding those things together is perfect for this climate, especially if you already have an established garden. And so just, making sure that gets added in and amended and worked into the soil, that's enough to, set up for a brand new fall planting or winter planting.
And so the compost I guess I'm not as familiar with Compost Queens as I think I am, because I've seen their page and I know that they collect scraps and things from you and they will compost them for you. So when you say you use the compost, is it soil and mulch like mixed together?
Well, this
Or is
cake.
Let's bring an example. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
So I don't bake, but so I found I found this Pyrex, and I'm not going to use it for anything. So I just wanted to get a good example of like what we mean, really. Yeah. And so you can kind of see the layers. So at the bottom is kind of your good soil, and that's where your root systems are going to end up. And then, you have a layer of Compost Queens, which is a lot of, it's not really the mulch here, but it's kind of more of the, I don't know if you can see it, but so it's like composted mulch. So they mix in the nutrients and mushroom blocks and things like that. And so it's a little bit darker and fine mulch. And then obviously like the little soil parts as well mixed in there.
So and that comes from Compost Queen. So do you need to add more dirt on top of that? So that's all you need.
That's all we need. We amend
nice.
Compost Queens with the native dirt.
Oh, perfect.
And then just coming in and, wetting that really well, making sure that it's not holding any tension. So the water's not pooling. And just mixing it in with your hands or your tool. And then coming and putting mulch on top.
Okay.
So, and around the base of wherever you have stuff growing. So,
and the mulch is also fantastic too because I think you can see on there it starts to build up its own mycelium network, its own mushroom network on there, which is really good because essentially, long story short, it's basically our network for the root systems, and it's super important part of underneath our soils.
Wow.
And, so it'll start to break down and create awesome soil.
That's good to know.
And really what we have, so with our long-term clients, where we maybe have had, where we put out raised beds or we've even done in-ground gardening, one of the things that we did try to do as we were mulching and making sure that we're putting in good nutrients back into the soil is we did spread cover crop in most places. And so cover crop can be mostly clover, you know, but if you get mixes, sometimes they'll have other things like cereal rye or barley, peas and things like that. And so having cover crop, what that will do is it'll also kind of give you a start for root systems to be creating. So you don't just have loose soil, right?
Yeah.
It works like a living mulch essentially too.
Yeah, and it fixes, so it when you have the height to go ahead and cut it back, you put it just back into the ground, and it'll feed your soil nitrogen and your plants nitrogen back in there. But in the meantime, it's really establishing root systems, so that way it can give nutrients to and from other plants that are
That's
you have
awesome.
going in there.
I didn't realize how important they were. Our whole yard pretty much in Austin was covered in clover, just like ground cover. I mean, we didn't really have grass. It was just this clover looking stuff. And I never thought anything of it, but now I know what purpose it served.
It's a nitrogen fixer at the end of the day, and what that means is on their root systems, there's these little pockets essentially, and so if there's an excess of nitrogen, it'll soak it up and carry it in its little nodule, and then if there is a lack of nitrogen somewhere, it will go and disperse it. So that's super valuable.
Wow.
Everything needs nitrogen.
Great.
At the end of the day. And cover crop kind of works like a muscle confusion for the soils, because there are different root systems. There's different nutrients that each root system is giving. And so it essentially helps to feed your soils too. And that's why we like to chop and drop it as well, because then it's just going to break down just like these little mulch pieces or anything else, leaves that you leave on the ground. And
keep the moisture in and all that. Nice.
So I guess this looks kind of confusing, but there is a purpose.
I know.
There's a purpose, right? So the cover crop is one like layer of what you're planting, right? And so that's going to give you your nitrogen, also your root systems, and it's going to work with the mycelium that's already in there to form networks, right? So that the plants can talk when you finally do put them in, or you put your seeds down. So if you want to do a fall garden that maybe has herbs and vegetables, you can start with, so like a lot of people want to start with like maybe broccoli or cabbage or even tomatoes are still good right now. And so those things are going to take a lot of nutrients from the ground. And so what you want to do is also, and you want to protect them from pests. So having your cover crop, having some herbs around it and flowers and different even like bulbs that like onions that are not going to be take up too much room. Those are going to help to not only feed this plant and support it, but it's also going to protect, like the onions and the basil will protect against pests coming in and just like robbing your plants.
They don't like the smell and the taste.
They don't like things that are kind of oniony or garlicky smelling.
Okay.
It seems like it helps to deter them.
Yeah.
Nice. So that's what companion planting is then, I guess, is strategically planting so that you keep the pests away, you keep the soil in good condition, and your main crop flourishes.
Right. And then also you can with the flowers, you're going to bring in pollinators, of course. So if it's not really, like a zinnia is not really a smelly flower or anything like that, it'll attract aphids, but it also is going to attract bees and other pollinators to this area. And so then it can also pollinate your other stuff.
Yeah.
And help.
And looks so
that.
pretty too.
Yeah. And the onions, for instance, will deter pests. And they don't need a whole lot of sun.
Yeah.
Just based on their leaves, like how they're kind of thinner, so they don't require a whole lot of sun. But you can put them in like kind of close to something that maybe is a little bit more filtered sun or blocking some of the sun, and that's going to help to deter pests. But then you also get onions.
Yeah. And is there I don't know, I'm sure there's a method to it, but how far apart should you have these companion plants? Like, I know this is a demo, so we're really tight, but is there
Technically, I feel like this is good spacing, with your bigger crop or whatever. So for instance, the broccoli, that's going to need a little bit more space. I always like to visualize like how big is it going to be when it's mature. And so that's how how I kind of space things out. I'm an overplanter. I am. I like because you always got to think too about the pests. There's going to be one plant in there at least that's going to be attacked by something. So there's your sacrificial plant essentially. Because if you remove it though, then all the pests are just going to come over to this one. So you might as well just leave it there and let nature do its thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So can you really, I mean, could you mess up your garden? I guess if you put things, I mean, if you put like your onions too close to your broccoli or.
I mean, I don't know that you can mess it up. Other people will probably give a flat yes, and it needs to be 6 inches apart or whatever. But I don't necessarily agree with that. If not anything, giving them space so that the root systems can be able to absorb whatever they need to do to produce whatever production it is. So I think it's in this standpoint, if we were to have more than one broccoli, then I would give it a good 10 to 12 inches between the broccoli. But as far as like the herbs or the cover crops and flowers and the filler inners, like I've never had a problem with overdoing it.
Yeah. Herbs can definitely be, depending on what you have. So if you have something like mint, we have a little lemon balm here. But if you have something like that, that one's going to obviously go a little bit more ground cover type. So it's going to sprawl. The dill is going to be taller. The basil too is going to be taller.
Yeah.
The onions, even though they're a bulb, they kind of like shallow dirt. So you also have to think about the space for the root systems as well. So broccoli has more of a taproot, and it'll spread out a little bit. But again, the cover crop and the herbs will kind of have more of a, like, I forget the word, but they'll have root systems that are spread out more on the surface.
Yeah.
And the same thing with onions; they like surface room, so they don't need a whole lot of deep, And so what might happen is if you do mess up your garden, the most that might happen is like if the onions are too close to a broccoli or something like that, or too close to a cauliflower or whatever you planted it close to, you might just get the greens and maybe the bulb doesn't develop as much.
Okay.
Or vice versa. Maybe you don't get as many greens, but you have this like amazing bulb because it has all the room to grow down.
Onions like a lot of water though too, so that's something you need to be mindful of like, where it's at, where it's planted next to.
You get a different view.
Great.
They require a lot of water so that you can get those juicy layers.
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot about this too, because I've seen this in my yard. This is moss.
Yeah, it's just like your normal. They live a lot on dead oak branches and things, and they fall and they, they're kind of like air plants too. They can grow, just hanging out, just hanging off a branch. Anyway, they're not at all dangerous or invasive or anything like that.
Killing your tree.
They're not killing your tree.
Just leave them alone.
Yeah, because some people, they bet they're like,
No.
These are actually pretty cute. We have a client whose husband will actually like put them in a bowl and like water them every now and again because he likes them. Yeah. And they're pretty cool.
They are. They're cool looking.
But these
they help to clean the air if not anything. If you have a whole bunch of those in your tree, like essentially like your tree's putting off more oxygen.
Yeah, you can tell and I guess like that's an indicator of how clean your air is too. Like the more that you find, the more that
awesome.
The air is cleaner around your space. So this is not going to hurt anything. You can just leave it on the ground if you want. Cover up some of your root systems. Yeah. And that just adds to the little. It kind of looks very like cowboyish, I think.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So pretty.
I love the garden cake.
Yes,
it makes me super happy.
It makes me happy. Oh my goodness. Well, let's see. I wanted to take a minute to. Y'all have a new. You could see. We're all sporting your shirts, the two hose. This is last year's version, right?
Right.
And so this year's version is really nice too. So there's the front.
We're in eggplant
the
season.
Back. Yeah.
It's eggplant season, and we also have a QR code on the back.
Yes,
so
there is a QR code.
If people want to scan it, it'll take you directly to our business card, and then also our website.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
And that's,
And it is super soft too. This fabric feels very nice. I squeezed into my shirt today for this.
It looks great. It looks awesome. Yes. I love it.
I know we've talked about this before, but how can people find you? And how can people find you and get you to come out to their house and tell them what they have in their yard and how to make it better?
We're on Instagram, Facebook, Two Hose Gardening. We have our website, twohosegardening.com.
And that's
Our
how
emails.
that's how they would make an appointment
Yes.
with you then, right?
Yes.
To go to your website or I guess it could send you something on social media as well. But going to your website, we can make an appointment and
There's
book a
little buttons and you
consultation.
click it and you can schedule
Sweet.
an appointment or sign up for our monthly newsletter.
Yeah.
That's a good way to get in contact with us too and
Yeah.
get some information in general.
Definitely. And see where y'all are going to be,
What's
what
going
classes
on
you're going to be
seasonally,
doing.
yeah.
Excellent. Well, great. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me again and sharing all of this knowledge with us so that we can have beautiful gardens too. And
Just get out
Yeah.
and outside, have fun, plant something, throw some seeds in there.
yes, indeed.
Okay to mess up, just do it.
Yeah, yes, that's true. I'm the queen of messing stuff up,
Same.
but
All day.
experimenting. It's
Yes,
experimenting.
yes, yes.
But I look forward to seeing y'all again in the spring. Then you can tell us about maybe bringing a spring
I'll
cake
bring a
for
spring
us.
cake, spring garden cake.
All right. Well, thank
Thank
you.
you.